Welcome to the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. Now, here's your hosts, B. Cox and the crew.
Greetings and welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to another edition of the Vault Podcast, classic music reviews, presented by IV Creative. It's a perspective of the classics from a fresh point of view. We appreciate you for taking your time and lending your ears to our perspective. You could be anywhere listening to anything, but you're right here with us, so we thank you. With you today is yours truly, B. Cox, and with me, I have my guy, my partner, my brother, my podcast brother. You know him well. He is the creator and host of the Raw Sex Podcast. I'm talking about none other than Cousin Domo, a.k.a. Dominique Marks. Make sure y'all are checking out the Raw Sex Podcast. Usually has a fresh episode every Friday. Y'all make sure y'all check that out on Friday mornings. And make sure you're following him on the socials as well. At Raw Sex Podcast on IG and Raw Sex Podcast 1 on Twitter. As I said, he's one of the most entertaining follows on social media. As I told him earlier on this week, I probably need to take his phone from him. Because there was some shit going on. Like, my man will have you cracking up laughing. So... But yo, go follow him on social media, see for yourself, man. He definitely has a little bit of comedy, humor, definitely some insights as far as what he's thinking at the time, but then also some truth bombs in there as well. So make sure y'all check my man out and check out Raw Sex Podcast. Shout out to all the listeners out there, stateside and worldwide, once again, for continuing to show some love. Guys, we thank you all for continuing to spread the word and keep going out there. Best rule of the internet is that make sure if you like something, you share it with somebody, and also make sure you tell the world how you feel about it. So make sure you're not just sharing it with people, but then you also go in and review. You can go to us at vaultclassicpod.com, leave a review on the website, or go to any one of our providers and leave a review and rate as well. 5 stars if you like it. We appreciate all the love and support. As we always say here on the Vault, our motto is hashtag open the vault. Hashtag nothing but the classics of MBTC. And Damo, I told you this year that the R&B lineup was going to be stacked. I told you.
Mm-hmm. You told me. You warned me.
And I'm not joking. And because of the years that we're covering of 92, 97, and 02, there's no shortage of classics and classic-like material that was released in these years. As a matter of fact, there's a few artists that released albums in a couple of these years and have a couple of albums that we're going to be covering this year. But as we stated last week, those of y'all have heard the episode of The Hidden Gem, which was Adriana Evans' self-titled debut album in 97, where we're going to go to an album that was actually released the next week. And it's funny, Damo, because one of my followers actually messaged me and said, yo, man, I noticed that y'all doing a lot of R&B albums so far this year. Like, y'all doing any more hip-hop? And I'm like, yo, the hip-hop albums are coming. Trust me, they're coming. We even got a couple of reggae albums we're going to cover this year. But you got to go with the way that the lineup is stacked. When the deck of cards are stacked a certain way, you got to go with the way that the cards are dealt. That's the way that the cards are dealt.
You got to play your hand.
You got to play the hand that way. You know what I'm saying? So, Damo, we're going to go back 25 years ago to April 22nd, 1997. And the third studio album by none other than Mary J. Blige, Share My World, released on MCA Records, was recorded between 1996 and 97. Number of different studios this was recorded at: the legendary Hit Factory, legendary Battery Studios in New York City, Chicago Tracks, the Chicago Recording Company, Flight Time Studios in Edina, Minnesota, and the record plant in LA, California. Runtime of 65 minutes and 15 seconds. Producers on this, executive produced by Mary herself, actually. Producers as well, Steve Stoute and another executive producer. The associate producers on this, a lot of big names: Jimmy Jam and Terry Lewis, Babyface, Bryce Wilson, James Ntume, Rodney Jerkins, and none other than Robert himself. And by Robert, I mean R. Kelly. And we'll talk about that in just a second.
Robert.
Yeah. R. Exactly. A lot of heavy hitters. Now, a name that you don't see on that list is, at that time, known as Puff Daddy, but it's Sean Diddy Combs. And we know famously Diddy helped produce and also was a mentor and manager for Mary. He's the one who signed Mary to Uptown when she first was signed back in 1991 and 92. And he was a big part of her debut album, What's the 411, and also My Life in 1994. In between My Life and Share My World, Mary and Diddy actually parted ways. He didn't manage her anymore, and she went in a different production direction. So this landed her pretty much the producers she has on this. She definitely took an active role in recording this album and helping to pick the producers who produced this album and writing for it as well. Now, the first two albums we know, Damo, What's the 411 had a very upbeat and positive vibe. It was from a brand new Mary that was on the scene that, you know, she was showcasing her talents to the world. My Life, we all know what My Life was about. My Life was an album that definitely had everything about breakups and heartbreak and, you know, the internal battles and struggles is sort of what helped make it such a classic and iconic album. This album definitely took a different direction from that one. During that time in between My Life, she was, you know, broke up with KC. She was battling clinical depression. She was on drugs and alcohol, but she made a concerted effort in between that time to clean her life up, get on the right track, and you can tell it in the vibe of this album when listening to it. 5 singles for this album for Share My World. The first one, which is Love Was All We Need, featuring Nas, released on March 18th in 97. I Can Love You, featuring Lil Kim, came out May 6th, 1997. Everything was released August 4th, 1997. Missing You, released October 2nd, 1997. And 7 Days, released March 20th in 1998. And those first 3 singles are really big singles on the album, the ones that I think that everybody really remembers. Of course, I think everyone remembers 7 Days as well because of her collaboration with George Benson. And so we talked about some of the collaborations. So other than Nas, other than R. Kelly, other than George Benson and Lil Kim, she also had collaborations on this as well with The Lox and also with Roy Ayers, the vibraphonist. So a lot of contributions on this, and you can see her footprint on this album without a shadow of a doubt, man. So we'll go ahead and get into it.
First thoughts and reflections.
So I'll go ahead and talk to you, Damo, our resident R&B maven, during this particular time. Share My World with Mary. So give us an idea of what you thought about it when you first heard it, and what you thought about it in the time since it's been out and listening to it this week. What were you reminded of?
When I first heard it, it was actually one of them joints that, you know, y'all youngers don't know about this, but it's some of that music that you wake you up in the morning on a Saturday or Sunday when you're in the house, like, hold on, Mary on right now? Hold on, what's going on? And you know what? A lot of times when Mary on, somebody in their feeling some type of way, so something wrong with the relationship, with a relationship going awry. So like, oh Lord, what this nigga done did? What this nigga done did, ma?
Oh, damn. It was one of them type of things.
Oh, we cleaning this? Oh, yes. Oh, yeah, this nigga definitely did something and we cleaning. Oh, shit. Yeah. All right. What I gotta clean? So,
damn.
That's like how this album, I can remember, you know, Mary coming on during that time.
Yeah.
You know, the cuts on it, especially, you know, Lil Kim on it. I think Lil Kim probably got the best feature to me. She got the best feature on it.
Okay. Yeah.
I'm like,
yeah.
Most memorable feature to me on it when she stepped on it. I'm like, oh yes. I said, well, I thought this was a remix back then. I don't know why.
Nah, that was
until this week.
track.
I was like, I said, oh, when it first came on, I listened to it this week. I said, oh, I wonder if they got the remix on here because I want to hear Lil Kim on it. And when she came, I said, I had to look at the phone and I was like, oh, this the regular version. This not the remix. I said, okay, all right. But you know why I was thinking? What you said in the beginning was I was thinking about Diddy. And, you know, Diddy king of the remix. So I'm thinking like, oh, Diddy had his hand in this. I know this song, the remix going to come, Lil Kim on the remix. But now you saying that Diddy didn't have his hand in this album. That makes sense to why it wasn't a remix track.
Yeah,
listening to it this week, like I remember, I said, I remember this show. Like, dang, she had a lot of Jones on here. That's what I was thinking about when I was listening to it this week. I was like, damn, I said, she had a lot of Jones on here. And then you get all the way to the end and you want to come with Not Gonna Cry. I said, hold on, this Jones was on here too?
Yeah.
Why did show all the way at the end?
Yeah.
This show all the way at the end?
Yeah, to cap it.
I said, yeah.
Yeah, man. It's an album that for me, like much of the music that I heard basically through my sister's speakers. Now, my sister was a huge Mary fan, all the way from What's the 411, even leading into this joint. So when she had a new album coming out, you know, this joint was getting copped on release day, and my sister copped it on release day. So I heard a lot of this album, not even really through my own speakers, but through her speakers. So I knew how the album sounded because she was always playing this joint. Like she played this joint like almost as much as I played some rap albums. And I started to grow an appreciation of Mary and also understanding even back then, like as being as young as I could, I kind of knew like the differences in the albums. Like, yo, what's the 411? You can see Mary's brand new. You could tell she's excited to be on the scene. She was like the young, new, hot thing. She sort of had this style, that whole hip hop soul, the whole urban soul. Like she was singing over hip hop sound and beats because of that Diddy influence and that Andre Harrell influence. And then when you get to my life, you can tell like, okay, some shit's going on in her life. Something's happening. I don't know exactly. Didn't know exactly at the time what was happening in regards to what she was singing about. Cause I was like, when my life came out, I was like 12 years old, but you could tell something was going on. And you get to share my world, man. It was almost like Mary had a little bit of a glow to her. You know what I mean? Like almost like she had to glow up. Like that was sort of like the start of part of the glow up of Mary. And we know Mary's been through up and downs through her music career, but this was really, I think, the first time that I think she came back from one of the first big setbacks that she had in her life personally. And then that showed on record with that comeback on Share My World. And part of it was separating, I think, from Diddy and understanding. She even said in an interview about this that, you know, she noticed that as he was getting bigger, as his label got bigger and as his business got bigger, then he sort of changed in regards to what it was he can offer her. So it's sort of like at the same time, they both became too big for each other. And they didn't collaborate with each other again until like maybe the early 2000s. But, you know, it was good for both of them that they separated. And it was good for her creatively that she can go ahead and explore. But I heard that growth. And you hear it because the album is like, you know, you listen to like My Life and listen to What's the 411. There's very like hip hop, you know, urban like bass, like, you know, it's very like, you know, not really traditional R&B. That's what we got us falling in love with Mary. Is she was singing over music that wasn't traditionally R&B music like most of her predecessors. What you got from her here was you got a little bit of the hip hop sound, but she really settled into some traditional, more so R&B sounding songs. Like the producers she worked on this, Poke and Tone as well, Trackmasters, doing hit R&B tracks, Babyface, Rodney, Robert, Jimmy Jam, and Terry Lewis, like those type of names that are used to producing R&B tracks. It sort of gave her some sort of differentiation that it's like, yo, I'm not just the queen of hip hop soul. I can actually give you some more traditional R&B, and I can settle into this and like be in my bag with this too. So it was like, yo, that's really what struck me listening to it. And the singles, obviously, yo, the first three of them are all obviously smashes, but really more so than anything else is that I think it's hard to follow up an album like My Life and figure out like, you know, how is this joint not gonna like pancake and fall face flat and like sort of bomb, I guess you could say, you know, in the light of an album like that was such a classic. Yeah. But what she did instead was come out and just give us an album that was not only, I would say, not on the par of My Life, but probably close to it and very consistent. So that's really what Share My World to me really was, and listening and hearing that growth and then maintaining that consistency and showing everybody like, yo, it wasn't just a flash in the pan. It wasn't just me with Diddy and he was the secret to my success. Like, no, I am the secret to my success. Like, I can be consistent, and I'm going to show y'all right here.
Highlights and lowlights.
So, Domo, go ahead and give us your highlights and lowlights here on Share My World. Let us know what you got.
I'm going to go, the highlights is, once you start the album, the highlights, like I said, the jump with Lil Kim, you know, you go to jump with Nas, that round jump, that's
the Evils,
Reasonable Doubt.
The Evils from Jay-Z's Reasonable Doubt, yeah.
The Evils, yeah. I heard that. I said, well, how does y'all sound like the Evils? Yeah, I was like, oh shit. I said, they pulled that one right back, didn't they?
Yeah, they did.
7 days. You know, of course, you know, you got R on there. Back then, you couldn't miss with R.
No, you couldn't.
But I feel like it starts going down a little bit around 11, about 12. I'm not really big on the Locks jump. Her part, yeah, but the Locks part, I'm like, I see what you did. And when I start thinking about it, I'm like, I see what you did here. You brought your boys from around the way. You brought them on the jump because, you know, she Yonkers, they Yonkers, you know. Yeah. So you brought them on the jump, get them a little shine. So, but I really wasn't feeling it.
Yeah.
Your plans? Today it's dinner with the parents at your spot.
We gotta come back here.
Now, their spot. Or you're on the edge of your seat at the game.
Come on, just one time.
And it's the one. Or maybe you're catching the next flight to...
Now boarding flight 1850.
Oh, that's you. The choice is yours. And when you're with Amex, it's not if it's going to happen, but when. American Express. Don't live life without it.
Get to know you better. I liked it. I liked the Rob Ayers Jones. I didn't like the remake of Our Love.
Gotcha.
I wasn't a fan of that one. So that's probably like one of them Jones. So I felt like she could have left that off. Mm-hmm. But then that's when the Not Gonna Cry shocked me, because I'm like, boom. So I was like, hold on. So how you try like bring the album down just a little bit, not to where I'm hitting the skip button, but I'm like, oh, damn, what the hell is going on? And you can hit us with the bang at the end, boom.
Yeah,
I was like, this how the album going in,
right?
Yeah, but yeah, but that's how. Yeah, that's the. I think the low light to me, the low light of his is. I'm not gonna say Our Love is a low light. I'm just saying I don't feel like they should have had that jump on there.
Okay.
And the jump with the locks, I could have did it without the locks on there.
Okay. Well, that's a way of looking at it. Definitely. I can understand what you're saying about the locks too, though, because that's early locks. You know what I'm saying? That's like heading into Money, Power, and Respect locks, and that's like
early, yeah.
You know, so it's like, you know, that they were sort of doing their thing back then, but we know like their potential was so much better. Like as once they got off of Bad Boy, got out of the shiny suit era, you could definitely see the locks for the locks, and for the locks being who they are right now today. Mm-hmm. But my highlights. So, like you said, I agree with you. Once the album starts, it just kicks off, and you get, and to me, I think you get in and you strap in for a ride all the way from the beginning until probably you get to all the way to like track 12, like you say. I think once you get into the album, from the intro all the way through I Can Love You to Love Is All We Need, with Round and Round, which hits you with that The Evils beat, like you said, Damo. So they're going back to that whole hip hop soul thing, the thing she was used to singing over hip hop beats on regular tracks and on remixes. Yeah. So, but then one of the more underrated tracks on here that I don't hear a lot of people talking about is the title track of Share My World, which was produced by Rodney Jerkins. That joint, man, look here. Rodney be doing some magic. And that's the thing. We talked about this during Brandy's joint during Full Moon. Rodney got magic in his production fingers, bro, like for real. And so he did it again with Mary. Like that Rodney sound, though, is just it's unmistakable, for real. The George Benson joint with 7 Days, obviously. Yeah. As a matter of fact, I want to even say that I think I remember since the track 7 Days, you remember Craig David, right? And his joint 7 Days. I think he said that he was partially inspired by this joint, by the 7 Days joint with Mary J. Blige, man. So that joint definitely is a banger. Look, and I understand, I get it. I know Robert's canceled. Okay? I know Robert is canceled. I get that. I understand that. I am fully on board and compliant. I know that Robert is canceled. But let me tell you something. It's on.
Hey, the chick Tammy Roman posted something the other day, like being at a cookout and R. Kelly come on, and you just like look at her, you want to dance, but you're like, damn, can I dance to this? And like I think I said it before on one of the episodes, like me and my wife were in the car, and she had her playlist on, and R. Kelly came on, and we like looked at each other because we like mumbling, and we looked at like, is it okay to sing it, babe? We ain't gonna tell nobody. It's just between, like, yo, hey, fuck it, go to the R. Kelly playlist.
Hey, yo, that's wild.
Like, fuck it, it's just me and you. Put the R. Kelly playlist. Yeah, like put this album on. Like, Nick, hey,
yeah. Hey, look,
we go. Yeah.
I know he's canceled. I get it. But that joint, it's on, man. Let me tell you something. The one thing, the memory that I have about that song, It's On, is that I was like at a house party or something like that in college. And this is one of those late night parties. Like literally party got started like 10:30, 11 o'clock and didn't end until like 4 or 5 o'clock in the morning. Like that's how crazy the house party was. But you know, they got to the end of the night, they started slowing shit down. Like, you know, people about to make their moves to take somebody home for the night. This was one of the last songs they played. And I just remembered, I was in that joint like, oh yeah, some people in this joint about to be fucking tonight. Like yeah. This joint, again, I understand Robert's canceled. I'm 100% on board and compliant with that. I get it. But this joint still, it's still a joint. It really is. Sorry. I mean, but it's still a joint, like for real. No lie.
It is a joint.
Yeah. So Babyface, one of the two tracks he performs on this joint, you know, writing and producing, and then Everything, which is the remake of the Stylistics joint. I mean, like, this is one of the joints that really, I think, helped Mary get out there and get her beyond just the hip hop crowd. Everything is sort of that single on here that sort of lets people know, like, okay, yeah, Mary can definitely start to cross over. You know, this is a track that even now, like, I hear people reference as one of their favorite Mary tracks, and it's a remake from the Stylistics, but it does it justice. I really think it does do it justice, man. And I love Everything. I love Everything. And then as you get into the second half of the album, like you mentioned, Damo, things do, it slows down just a little bit. I love Keep Your Head. The Can't Get You Off My Mind with the locks. Like you said, that's the early lock. So you can understand why, you know, it sounds a certain way. They had the skill and everything there, and I can see what they were trying to do. But, you know, is it sort of something, I could be okay with it, but I'm also okay without it as well. That's sort of just the way that I feel. Get to Know You Better.
Yeah.
I don't really know about that one either. I mean, that one, it's okay. You know, I did like Searching, though, with Roy Ayers. I mean, obviously, I love Roy Ayers. I love a lot of Roy Ayers' music. I got to agree with you there, too, with Our Love. It's just something I love. Yeah, it's just something like, you know, it doesn't evoke any strong emotions out of me. You know what I'm saying? And then to end the album on Not Gonna Cry after, you know, having this album come out, and then this is a track that actually was on the Waiting to Exhale soundtrack. So that album was a #1 hit before this album even came out. You know what I'm saying? So we were used to hearing that track, and that was already a certified banger without one of her classic songs. Like someone mentioned and talked about, you know, Mary's songs, if she was to get into a verses, songs that she would have in a verses. And people were like, yo, this is absolutely one of the songs on Mary's song versus list. Like, without a shadow of a doubt. It's one of the biggest songs she's done in her career.
Yes,
it is. And so yeah, I mean.
Yes, it is.
Yeah, but other than that, I mean, so it's a few songs on here in the second half of the album that I don't really care too much for. I mean, necessarily would I take them off? Yeah. I mean, I don't think I would feel too bad if they left them on or they left them off, but I'm really more so indifferent to them. Not necessarily outright, oh, these disjoint trash. It's more so just like, I could really go either way with them. Yeah. It doesn't really matter, you know, for me.
You could have did without it.
Yeah.
You could have did without it.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, you could.
I definitely understand that.
I didn't run to my phone and hit the skip button. It was just like, man, what are you doing? Why this on here? Okay.
Yeah,
right.
You know, you have a couple of joints on there. You get them, and the joints be some trash, and you got to run to the skip button to go ahead and push that joint forward. Like, nah, this ain't it, partner. This ain't it. This ain't it. So
yeah.
So those are my highlights, man. This album, as far as what it did commercially, Damo, 3 million copies is what it sold, and this was the first album that she actually had #1 on the Billboard charts.
Wow, that's shocking.
I know, isn't it? I mean, after 2 classic albums to start her career, it's the first one that was #1 in the U.S. Billboard 200. And it's also the first album that she charted on internationally in the top 10 in countries like Canada, in Sweden, and in the UK. And then it entered the top 40 in other countries like New Zealand and France. Really, when you talk about this album, Mary was a big star in our community, in the hip-hop crowd, and the R&B and urban crowd. This album sort of made her a big star internationally. And we talked about this a bit last year when we did Toni Braxton's Secrets. Remember that? When we talked about, you know, that when Toni had her debut album, it made her a big star within the black community, within R&B, within hip hop. But when she came out with Secrets, she had songs and the sound on Secrets that made her a huge pop star. It made her a huge star internationally by having that single, like Unbreak My Heart, which was like crossover appeal across the board. You know what I mean? And it took her from being, okay, she's a black music superstar to being a music superstar, period. That was sort of the difference. And I feel like that's sort of the same thing what happened with Mary here with Share My World. That's big because as we got into later on in the decade, heading out the rest of the decade, Mary had a couple of an album pretty much to finish out the decade. But when we got into the 2000s, It was almost like she was in the like a lane of her own. Like you could put her up there with the Whitneys and the Mariah Careys and the Tonys as far as having that success as like in that R&B market, being like almost like iconic in that realm. So I think that was really the start of her becoming like an icon. This album right here, Share My World.
Final verdict.
So here we are, Domo. What say you about Share My World? Is it a certified classic, borderline classic just in its time, or not a classic at all?
I'm gonna go with certified classic, 9 out of 10.
Okay.
Just those little. If you take out Our Love and maybe take the locks off of there, I would have went 10 for 10.
Okay.
But it's still it's a strong classic album.
Yeah.
It's a strong classic album. Very strong classic album.
Yeah. I would say certified classic as well. I'm going to go 9 out of 10 as well. I do think, like you said, there's a couple of tracks on there I'm a little indifferent on. But other than that, though, that ride from the first track of the album all the way up to like track 12, it just is straight heat all the way through. And then as you get into the second half of the album, there's also strong performances, so they hold it up.
Yeah, that strong part of the album, that beginning, it ain't too many albums that you can say that can give you that right off the strength of a straight 12 songs, 11 songs. Like, damn, this is heat.
Yes.
And the only reason why I bring it down to that 9 is just that little blip in it. Those couple of songs right there makes me bring it down to a 9. Like, oh, but didn't skip them. Yeah. Still listen to them. Just like, yeah. But then she hit you right with Not Gonna Cry. Like, oh yeah, this would have been a 10 if you would have just,
yeah.
But yeah, it's definitely an album for the times and beyond times. Yeah.
Yeah, this is definitely, when we talk about the Fame 3 album run thing with Mary, this is definitely in the conversation as far as Fame to 3 album runs. Because you go from What's the 411 to My Life to this joint, it ain't too many 3 album runs R&B wise that can mess with that. I mean, you're talking about maybe Whitney, maybe Tony, Mariah probably. You could probably throw a couple of Mariah 3 album runs in there. But there's not a whole lot. You know, there really isn't. You'd have to start going into groups, perhaps, maybe.
Yeah.
Maybe. So this is definitely epic. And the fact that Mary sort of took a different formula and left the safe space of working with a certain set of producers and then took an active role really in helping to make this album herself in a different space emotionally as well, to me is what helped to make this a classic. So Mary J. Blige, Share My World, 25 years old this week. Please make sure you go check it out. As a matter of fact, go check that out and go check out the vinyl as well. I've seen some people pick it up this past week because Record Store Day just passed alongside us this past week. So please make sure y'all go check out Share My World by Mary J. Blige and listen to it, man. And definitely look out for some of the articles we're going to have in the show notes to see some of the perspectives. You'll definitely see where this stands in Mary's discography and why so many of us revere it in a positive light. And that is going to wrap up yet another edition of The Vault. Please make sure you check us out on our host on the Red Circle. You can also visit us on our website at vaultclassicpod.com. That's vaultclassicpod.com. You can go there and check out the episodes, leave us a review, rate the show. You can also leave us a voicemail by the blue microphone in the bottom right-hand corner. You can get to our Buy Me a Coffee page in the bottom left-hand corner with the coffee cup highlighted in yellow. Leave a small monetary donation to donate to the show to make sure we can keep the vault open for many years to come. As well, you can visit us on all of our social media pages. That's at Vault Classic Pod on Instagram. That's at Vault Classic on Twitter. And on Facebook and YouTube, you can search us with the Vault Classic Music Reviews Podcast. Like the Facebook page, subscribe to the YouTube channel, interact with us on social media. We do it here all for you. We appreciate the support, and if you have a friend, tell a friend, and make sure that that friend tells a friend. Always remember to keep your headphones on and your music loud, but not too loud. And as we close, we'd like to remind everyone to dream big, because dreams are the basis for creation. Always create, motivate, and elevate, because you were never destined or created to stay stationary in this life. And on that note, we say peace.
Thank you for listening and coming into The Vault. Please subscribe and visit us at vaultclassicpod.com. That's vaultclassicpod.com.